Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the SITREP for the day of 570 for the 16th of September. Let's start off with Zaporizhia front over at the Orikhiv sector. We have update in terms of geolocation. We have Ukrainian forces geolocated at this position. This actually expands the Ukrainian control on towards the western outskirts of Robotine, most probably even to this point. But this distance is actually quite big. Even just this stretch is already almost like 600 700 meters. If you go all the way, this entire stretch of tree line is actually 2 kilometers long, to maybe even 2.5 kilometers long. So it is quite a long distance. The geolocation is just Ukrainian forces getting shelled at this position by geolocated by this account called Creamy Caprice. So I'm not sure what is the alignment of this account. They seem to be pretty neutral, simply geolocation. They don't call the Russian forces or the Ukrainian forces our forces, so they seems to be pretty neutral in terms of just purely they do pure geolocations. Discovered this account through military summaries Telegram channel. There's also various other geolocation of Ukrainian forces over this position by military summary. This by Creamy Caprice. There is within Robotine by military summary, and the geolocations within Robotine also is quite, I think, illuminating, showing that the Ukrainian forces continues to hold a stronger position within the northern part. This is where they build their forward operating base, I guess, and this is where they then launch attacks or movement to the front, because pretty much in this area here, this is actually the front line. So you don't sleep here, you probably sleep around here, and you send forces up front to fight out from the southern part of Robotine. So the frontline geolocation is still around this area, just off the entrenchment around here. So nothing significant have changed in terms of the front line around this region. There is fighting still reported at Robotine, but this time around only reported by Deep State. In fact, it's also very vague. They just say fighting continues around Robotine, and that's about it. So we shall continue to monitor. Tentatively, it still seems like the Ukrainian forces have pretty much stopped their offensive over at Robotine, putting all their attention at VERBOVE. So at VERBOVE, we have fighting continue to be reported at VERBOVE. Syria Maps and Deep State both reported about Ukrainian forces making some progress over at VERBOVE, and this actually can be seen from this geolocation by Z Archive, the pro-Russian source, showing Ukrainian forces at this position. So previously the front line was here, so Ukrainian forces have actually made some progress into the next line, to the next tree line, and basically they are now effectively on the outskirt of Robotine, because the next jump for the Ukrainians will be into the village proper itself. So the Ukrainians are making progress here. There are still geolocation of Ukrainian forces in the rear. Particularly this one was Ukrainian forces hiding at the Dragon Teeth getting shelled. But pretty much that's it over at the Orikhiv sector. Over at the Velika Novosibirsk sector, we have some fighting around this region here. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that there is fighting at Rivnopil and Novomaiorskke region, claiming that the Russian forces are attacking in this direction, and they have been stopped due to heavy losses on the Russian side. This is not reported by any other source, only by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. There is Russian reports of Ukrainian continue their attack at Prione. This is Prione, and the fighting is being reported by Russian Defense Ministry and Ryba. Ryba is a pro-Russian source, and that's about it. There's not much information about any changes of frontline or whatnot. The Ukrainians, according to Ryba, is attacking across the entire front line, claiming that this entire line here is under Ukrainian attack. The Ukrainians are supposedly attacking. So if this is the case, then the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reports attack at near in the area of Novomaiorskke or Rivnopil might be a projection, but we cannot tell based on this information, so it could be anything. And Over at Uruzhaine, the Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported Russians were attacking enemy attacks at Uruzhaine area. This one is on the 15th. Also this might be actually outdated. Yeah, it might be outdated. So sorry. Yeah, it should be on the 16th because we are talking about the 16th of September information. There is geolocation of Ukrainian forces at this position by military summary, but that's nothing much. It just shows that the Ukrainians are still at Uruzhaine. It doesn't really have any significance in terms of that. Moving on into the Donetsk front, around the NOVOMAIORSKE region, there is no more fighting reported at Novodonetsk. The fighting continue to be reported at NOVOMAIORSKE. There is no geolocation in this area here, despite we do have a lot in the previous report around all this area here. The fighting is still being reported at NOVOMAIORSKE according to the Russian Defense Ministry and Miroshnikov. So there's not much. The pro-Ukrainian source simply reported battles has begun for NOVOMAIORSKE, and that's about it. We don't have any further information about the fighting over this area here. Moving on to the other side of the Donetsk front, we have fighting continue to be reported at Marinka. Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported they have repelled against Russian attacks over at Marinka region, and that's about it. And in the ANDRIIVKA front, this is the ANDRIIVKA front. There is Ukrainian Defense Ministry report of Russian offensive action at Zhivany. So this is Zhivany, and this is Zhivany, and the Russians are supposedly attacking Zhivany. So does feels a bit weird because the Ukrainians were attacking Opitne. So the Russians attacking Zhivany, I'm not sure if this is offense in the form of defense. I'm not sure, because they could have sent reinforcement to help out to clear out the Ukrainian forces from this area here. So let's see how this goes. There's no more other fighting around the rest of the ANDRIIVKA region. Moving on to the Bakhmut front. At the southern part of the Bakhmut front, the Ukrainian forces continue their Bakhmut offensive over KLISHCHIIVKA, ANDRIIVKA, Kupyansk, and Ozherenivka. And over at the north of Ozherenivka or south of Kupyansk, Miroshnikov reported that there is Ukrainian forces trying to expand their bridgehead, basically trying to expand out from the canal region. Fighting is being reported at Kupyansk according to Miroshnikov. The way how he report is the entire front line from Miroshnikov to the south of from Kupyansk to the south of Kupyansk. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry said that the Russians counterattack at Kupyansk as well as at ANDRIIVKA. So at ANDRIIVKA, we have previously reported that the Ukrainian forces have captured ANDRIIVKA. So the fighting is still ongoing around in the area of ANDRIIVKA. Ryba continued to report ANDRIIVKA as a gray zone, with no one actually properly control the village. And Surya Map, based on geolocations, reported that ANDRIIVKA is captured, which is now confirmed. For Miroshnikov, they claim that the Russian forces has been pushed back by 1 kilometers. So from ANDRIIVKA, 1 kilometers is basically to the next tree line. So they are claiming that the Russian forces is now here, probably around here, with the Ukrainian forces now holding this tree line. This is probably what Miroshnikov is trying to say, but we have no mapping to back this up just yet, but it seems like this is what he's trying to say. But we do have geolocation of Ukrainian forces in the two different sides, one here, showing that the Ukrainian forces indeed are moving across the town and clearing it. There is geolocation by military summary. The other one is by Creamy Caprice. And we also have footages dropped by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry to show GoPro footage of the Ukrainian forces fighting within the village. So you can actually check out the post in the DPA's Telegram channel. You can check out the link in the description below if you are not joined yet. At KLISHCHIIVKA, we have geolocation of Russian forces over at the very edge of the town, pretty much right at the edge here. So which shows that the Russians are basically still have some small little foothold within the village. Reports continued from Deep State UA saying that the Russians are pretty much at the edge of the village. Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that they are successful in their assault, and Ryba simply says that there is fighting at KLISHCHIIVKA region. They did not acknowledge the previous report about them saying the Ukrainians have been taken out or redrawn out. So let's wait and see what Ryba are going to say in their excuse to to change their story or narrative. I'm not sure. The Ukrainian Defense Ministry reported that the Russians counterattack in the KLISHCHIIVKA region. So I'm not sure if this is true. So let's continue to monitor and see how this goes. There's no reports in the northern flank of the Bakhmut front. Over at the Sivers front, we have a weird report from Myroshnikov saying that there is fighting at Yakovlivka. They say that the Ukrainian forces are covering the village from both sides. I'm not sure if this is what he's trying to say. A bit weird. So we're going to continue to monitor to see if anyone else can corroborate his claims. We move on into the Crimea front. Over at the Crimea front, there is fighting reported within the Serbianske forestry, according to the Russian Defense Ministry, as well as at Torske. The trend of rolling attacks seems to be continuing. 63rd and 67th, and then we have 63rd and the 12th Azov. So very interesting. Maybe it is the Azov fighting within the Serbianske forestry, 63rd at Torske. Similarly, we have over here Torske, Serbianske, 63rd, 67th Brigade, Mechanized Brigade. Maybe they are fighting Torske, 5th National Guard in the Serbianske forestry. So that could be the case. So anyway, we shall continue to monitor the Ukrainian forces advance within these two regions, these two areas of this forest. And there's nothing much over in the Svetove front, no reports of anything. And over at the Kupyansk front, we do have something. The Russian Defense Ministry reported Ukrainians launched an attack at Sinkivka and the Oshana region. So this, I wonder if this is actually a beginning of some kind of a counter-offensive by the Ukrainian forces to recapture the grounds. So far, it's not sustained just yet, so it's kind of hard to tell. And that's it for the Kupyansk front. And that's it for the SITREP for the day of 570 for the 16th of September. So just to conclude, the Ukrainian forces are continuing to put their effort mainly at VERBOVE. So they continue to put their effort over here. Over at the Robotine region, the aim is just to hold position. There is at least this nodule location here to show that the Ukrainian forces indeed have taken some buffer zone on the western part of Robotine. As I mentioned before, the Ukrainians have to have this buffer zone around Robotine to secure Robotine. So with this geolocation, we can confirm that maybe these entire two trench lines are now effectively under Ukrainian control. The Ukrainians are still fighting around the area of Robotine. They seem to not be able to get out of it just yet. The front line have not really changed. There is no fighting near NOVOMAIORSKE. No one reports that. Basically, it's just this geolocation that shows the Ukrainian forces managed to go from this line to the next line. And with this next line, they are basically on the outskirts of VERBOVE, with the Russian forces basically holding the village itself. The next jump for the Ukrainians will be into VERBOVE itself. So this is very, very, very interesting. So the other front lines, there is some fighting around this area here. The Ukrainian forces continue to attack Priodne, and there's a possibility that this attack is actually an entire front-wide attack from Priodne all the way to NOVOMAIORSKE. So this is claimed by Ryba, the pro-Russian source. Ukrainian Defense Ministry say that it's a Russian attack, might be a projection that is actually a Ukrainian attack. So we shall see whether this can be corroborated. But Ryba has been quite consistently saying that it's a Ukrainian attack across the entire front. The Ukrainians fighting over on the eastern part of Velika Novosilka sector basically only remains with NOVOMAIORSKE. They continue to struggle to seem to try to hold it, create this foothold here. We shall see how this goes. that it's a weekend. We don't have a lot of reports per se. And ANDRIIVKA region, nothing much to shout about. Over at the Bakhmut front, main thing is the Ukrainian forces is now confirmed with geolocation of Ukrainian forces within ANDRIIVKA. Despite ANDRIIVKA is pretty much a flattened town, there's nothing much really to talk about. As I mentioned earlier in the SITREP, Miroshnikov claimed that the Russian forces have basically withdrawn to this tree line around here, 1 kilometers away from ANDRIIVKA. So which also means that the Ukrainian forces might actually hold positions around the forest region, and this will be where they will continue their attack and spread out and try to break the next line of defense. So ANDRIIVKA is captured, but it's basically a flattened town. There's really nothing much there to talk about. Basically geolocation of Russian forces shows that they indeed are still within KLISHCHIIVKA. Ukrainian forces probably most likely is still holding most of it. We shall continue to see whether the Ukrainians will be able to push out and capture the rest of the town and claim another famous victory over the Russian forces. And otherwise, there's nothing much else to shout about. Some weird reports of fighting at Yakovlivka. We cannot confirm this by Miroshnikov, and Ukrainian forces continue their Crimea offensive. And of course, there's also these reports from the Russian Defense Ministry of Ukrainian attack over the Kupyansk front at SITREP and Vyshana might be a beginning of a major counteroffensive to recapture the ground that they have lost. But we shall see because the Russian lines are pretty much still here right now. So thank you for watching. Do press the like button, subscribe. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you in the next update.